So that is the starting point of it. To give an introduction, I'm Odhiambo David. I'm a pharmacist by profession. Actually, I've been in practice for the last 3 years. And for the last 3 years that I've been in practice, that is actually the genesis of Reculture as an organization as it has been. Reculture has been in place from 2017, officially incorporated in 2017, November 17th. So to give a background on what Reculture is, Reculture Health and Social Innovation is a social enterprise, and our focus is on improving access to quality healthcare services to the Kenyan people, and additionally to build capacity of young people to be able to drive meaningful change in their communities. And in line with that, actually in line with the two components of what our work has been around, is the reason as to why we have this program where we are looking at how do we engage with young people, how do we work with young people who are our peers, we are as young as you are. So the key thing is how do we work together to make the society better? How do we drive meaningful contributions in our different communities to solve problems that are there with us? So that is the genesis of what we're doing. Silas, please mute your microphone. I'd suggest that whoever is in the meeting room, take a moment to mute yourself so that we don't have background interferences as we have it now. Yeah, that would be far much better so that we don't have those interruptions. So yes, being we here, Michelle, you can also take the moment to just mute everyone from the meeting, so that we have that lack of interference. So that is the basis of what we are doing as a team. So in terms of what we are going to discuss today, you received an email, and that email gave us, So from that email, what we're looking at is ensuring that we have a common starting point. You get to understand what you're doing, and we also get to understand what your expectations are about the program. And then we come to a middle ground in terms of how do we support one another in driving this mission together and realizing the benefits of it. So with that said, in case anyone has a question, this is the moment then you can ask that question if you want to know something more about Reculture, before I hand over to the next person who will be sharing more about the program specifically. Any questions? Anything that someone would want me to clarify? And in the moment, take a moment to introduce yourself based on your name, organization that you work with, and your county in Kenya. Because the focus at in this initial moment is for Kenyan young people. It has to be operating within the country. So any questions, any concerns that might be here that we need to get into?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, Rebecca.
Yeah, my name is Rebecca Laibage, Secretary Maisha Youth Network in Trans Nzoia County. Yes. And probably you've talked about some of our expectations. I really believe that we should be hearing much from your side, like what do you expect from us in the, what is the terms of engagement before we can talk about our expectations and everything else. That's my suggestion.
That's okay. So actually what I mentioned is in terms of the flow of the program today, we have the introduction where I've told you all about Reculture and what we do, our genesis. And the focus has been now there's the Srhr component, there's mental health, and there's human capacity building. And then being a pharmacist, I'm also involved in the pharmaceutical system strengthening component. So those are 4 key pillars of what we do and how we do it. So for the program that we're talking about, Srhr, I just gave an introduction. Anybody who wanted to know more about Reculture, you have a moment to ask that question. Then I'll transfer the powers to Michelle, who is the project associate, actually focused on this Srhr program, who will also share more about how we look at working with you. Then from there, we get to the contextualized discussions on how do we work together to make it a success for the both of us. So yes, Innocent.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes. Is that Innocent or Magaiwa?
Is this organization a youth led?
I'm not getting you.
Should I continue?
Yes, now continue.
No.
Okay, is it a youth-led or what kind of organization? Is it an adult youth-led? Is it an adult youth or what kind of organization are you? And what is the scope of us in terms of decision making and what is okay in terms of decision making? And then you need to clarify much on what do you need table so that you can ask questions, because right now you only know about the organization. So we need you to give us the bit of everything that
Makes sense, makes sense. So that's okay.
Because we need to embrace, because we need to be as objective as possible in this conversation.
Definitely, that's well understood. So with that said, I think it's better that we get into the context of it so that we're starting from a point of understanding. So Reculture and organization is youth-led. It's being driven by us young people and a couple of other people who are supporting from different organizations that we're looking at partnering with, and we're also actually partnering with at the current moment. So with that said, I'll hand over. Michelle, give us an overview of what the program looks at and how we are going to go about it. Then I'll come in after that so that we move to the next phase of it. Michelle?
Hello, David.
Yep.
I lost my internet connection for a bit. Could you kindly repeat?
Yes, so what I'm saying is, from here now, being given an overview of what Reculture is, share context about the program that we're working on, the Srhr Youth Champions program, so that we get to a point where this is the main area of engagement and how we are looking at working with young people. So share those insights, then now from there we get to the basics. So just talk about the youth program.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Once again, I hope you can hear me well. I think my bandwidth is a little bit low, so I'll have to switch off my video as I'm speaking. But I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Maybe one or two.
You can confirm from the chat if you can hear her. Personally, I can.
We can hear you.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, we've lost you. Well, I think there are technicalities in how we're going to operate. So what I'll do, let me just give an overview of everything, and I hope she'll come in and join us as we continue with the discussion. So
could you share the presentation?
No, there's no presentation.
Okay, so I'm finding it difficult just because when I looked at the mail you sent yesterday, you said there was several things that were going to be taken through. So I'm wondering if I'll be able, for me, not for others, if I'll be able to understand everything and capture everything in my mind, as you say, as we go.
Yeah, so what I'd suggest is there was an agenda that was I outlined, and in that agenda, actually what I'll do, let me just project the email as it was sent. Then we have the discussion from there, because we are going to discuss each and every single item point from where it is.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I believe this is the reminder that you all received. So introduction to Youth Voices program, I mentioned what we are doing as Reculture, and the Youth Voices program, what we are looking at. So the scope of Srhr Youth Champions Engagement Program, confirm you can see my screen?
We can see.
Perfect, thank you. Yes. So if you can, that's great. So in terms of the scope of Srhr Youth Champions Engagement Program, I mentioned that we reached out to young people who are working on sexual reproductive health programs in the whole country And one of the critical contributions and the critical expectations that we had on you is you're working on as an identified problem in your community, and there's some intervention that you've designed that you believe is a key solution to addressing that. If at all you are looking at menstrual hygiene and management programs, you're providing sanitary products or partnering with organizations to provide that, that is the key thing, the key challenge that you've identified in your community. And therefore, your operational model is ensuring that that problem that you've identified is going to take root and change the narrative at that particular community where you're operating. That is the basis of point number one, looking at young people who are actually involved in the process at the current moment. So we're expecting either you're working with an organization, you're running an organization, or you've identified a need and partnering with people once in a while. Maybe let's say if I'm an individual in a particular context, and I would come partner with Ryculture at one angle and deliver a program in a community, then I understand a problem that is already there. So it's not about, I don't want to, as somebody mentioned, I think that was Elijah, who was asking about in terms of, is it youth-led or how do we work with young people? The key thing is young people have identified some problems that are facing their communities, and they're taking lead in addressing those problems. So the question is, how do we enable you do the work better? And how do we enable you deliver impact as you continue doing what you're doing? Because it's you who knows the problems in our communities. I can't be leaving my place to come solve a problem that I don't understand the context, the dynamics around that community, and how it can be solved better. So that is the overview of how we're engaging with young people at that particular component. You've identified a problem, you've designed a solution that's going to address it. The key angle now of Ryculture coming on board is, how do we make you do your work better? How do we support you in the delivery of that work? And therefore, in order to ensure sustainability and overall overview and success of the work, there are key components that we're bringing into the scope of work. And that is visibility. You can take notes, whoever is taking notes. What our Ryculture component would be bringing on board is the visibility component 1, 2, capacity building, and finally, point number 3, partnerships. And I'm going to give a detailed description on how we are bringing the 3 components to it. There's visibility, there is capacity building, and there are partnerships. The first thing is, in terms of partnerships, we are coming in as an organization and partnering with young people who have identified challenges in their communities. And the reason as to why we felt this is important is, you know what problems are there, you know the interventions you're bringing, and you need to be enabled to realize the potential of your work and to make it thrive in wherever you are. If at all it can be able to raise your finances, help you do it better with more impact and give you meaningful engagement and contribution in the community, that is a win for you. And we're here to look at who are the people we can support you with, who can we link you with, and how can we ensure that you deliver that work. So the partnership component is Ryculture partnering with all these youth organizations that we're having in this meeting room now. And through that partnership, we are looking at how do we enable you realize your objectives. And for that to happen, we need to understand what is it that you are currently doing in your space and how do we help you do it better. That's 1. 2, in terms of visibility, one of the critical components from the time that we founded Ryculture and the work that we've been doing around the space, we've realized is most young people do so much work. Most young people are doing intervention in their community. Unfortunately, there's never any record of that work that is there. And I can give an example in terms of the applications that we received from the 397 people who filled the application forms. Of the 397, less than 80 had a link to any documentation that is detailing what they're doing and why they're doing that. Therefore, even in the process of doing the work you're doing with your communities, the interventions that you're designing, it means there's a lower likelihood that anybody would identify your work. And if you're reaching out to a sponsor or partner who is able to support you do the work better, chances are it might not gain traction. How do I trust you when there's no documentation or evidence of the work that you'll be doing that you're purporting to do? You'll tell me in story, like we are now talking. After that, how do I know that that thing happened? How do I know that there's a trail of something that you've identified, there's evidence of the work you're doing, that happens? So that is something that is lacking as well. So in our context is, how do we ensure that we give you the visibility and you enable you document and report the work you're doing so that even if you're reaching out to raise resources, to get partnerships and continue doing the work to ensure that it's sustainable and it's addressing the need that you've identified, how do you do it better? That is on visibility. Ryculture is going to offer that platform in terms of giving you a platform to actually amplify the work you do, share the context in terms of what you're doing in your different spaces. And beyond that, we're giving you a network of our partners and some of the people that we're engaging with as well from the visibility component. Then finally, whatever it is that you're doing in your own context, there's the program design, there's the project that you're doing, if sanitary materials, advocacy programs, capacity building, mentorship, and related. There's just so much that you can do, but you need the skills and you need to be able to execute with efficiency and with impact. So that is in terms of capacity. Do you know how to manage your project management skills? How do you communicate the work that you're doing, communication skills? For the people who are in the policy and advocacy space, policy making, are you involved in policy making? What forums can you leverage on to ensure that the agenda, the initiatives, and the issue that you're trying to address in your community are realizing the impact that they need to be realizing? Then that is policy making. Then in terms of resource mobilization, we all are young people. And oftentimes, maybe let's say, for example, if you're in the university, your parents are providing for you and your guardians. Beyond that, you need to be able to provide for yourself, and you also you have own needs and wants that you have to fulfill. And therefore, it means you need resources. If at all there isn't sufficient resources for you to do the work that you do, chances are the identified problem that you have identified in sexual reproductive health, the work that you're putting in will stall. I gave an example in terms of the things that I'm seeing in our community. I started my work when I was in the university. We started with a couple of people. Some people stopped the work they were doing in their different initiatives because after graduating or after finishing college, you now focus on putting food on your table. And if you have to put food on your table, then it means you leave every other thing that is not enabling you to get some returns from it. And if that happens, then it means the problem you identified that you're trying to solve in your community will come to an end at that point. Then who ensures that that issue is addressed? We don't have evidence of that. So now this is where we are looking at in terms of capacity building. How do you enable you raise resources to be able to do the work and raise resources to be able to run your life depending on that project that you're working on? And that is a key component as well. Then finally, program design and communication skills and related. So there will be programs capacity building, there is the visibility, and there is the last bit on partnerships, the three components as I mentioned. In visibility, sharing your work, we have our platform that we have, the Ryculture website, and we are building a particular outlet where we're looking at Srhr youth champions. Your stories, your narratives in terms of what you're doing, we'll be populating it for you. And we also give you the opportunity, do your work in terms of building your online presence wherever you are, LinkedIn pages, Facebook pages, Twitter handles and all, and even a website if you're able to do that, build that on your end. Then we also help you amplify through our network. That is a critical bit. That is on the visibility. In the second phase, in terms of capacity building, we are having a couple of partnerships as well in the current moment with people we're engaging who are willing to build capacities of young people working in the sexual reproductive health space. They are willing to offer trainings. They are willing to enable you do the work by even integrating in some of their local programs that they're doing in those communities. And therefore, this would be a platform for you to work with them and continue doing the work you do. The final bit in terms of partnerships, they also partner with you and we also help you mobilize resources to be able to do your work. And we are there with you along the journey to ensure we are driving value in our communities. So that is a scope of what we are looking at with the Srhr Youth Champions Engagement Program. Any questions? Any?
Yes. If you could maybe just go back. I don't know about other guys, but for me, there's something you were talking well, the English was coming very well. And then boom, I lost you. I don't know if it was the English or how it went, but you talked about something around putting food on my table, blah, 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 blah. If you could just go back to that. I've understood the thing about exposure, the partnerships, the capacity strengthening, yes, but that part of putting food on my table,
well, it's good. So putting food on your table is a critical thing. You have needs that you have to meet. That is what I mentioned. And being I mentioned that is a critical bit is, then how do you ensure your program is able to help you put food on your table so that it's sustainable? If I can't continue doing the work I'm doing, then I won't be solving the problem. And I'll stop it because your food, your needs come first. If you're not able to provide for yourself, then there's no likelihood that you'll continue doing a program that is not enabling you to do that. You'll find something that helps you do that. So in this context, what we're trying to do is, how do we ensure that your program is sustainable, that it's able to raise your resources? And that is where now we are looking at what partnerships are available, which people are willing to fund such programs, but they lack access to the different communities where this work is happening. So that is the critical bit. Then now in terms of capacity building, the trainings and all that, so that you know what kind of resources can you raise in that context, and how do you ensure that if you're looking for financing, just generally money, how do you get that money? In running the project, if you need human capacity, human capital, who are the people willing to offer their services for free? So that you ensure even the resources that you have, you're not investing it in paying people, but they're offering the services for free as volunteers or even strategic partners, but you're able to raise resources to put food on your table. That is the key component of it. I don't know if that makes sense, Innocent.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Joyce, you have a question?
Hello, David.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Is there a limit on the Zoom participants?
Yeah.
There are a few participants who have not been able to join.
Okay, let me have a look at it as we continue.
Okay. I'd like to ask one question.
Yes. Who is speaking, please?
You are talking to Siamola.
Okay.
So thank you so much for the opportunity and also for the engagement, for the learning engagement, and also for the scheduling the engagement during a weekend so that it may not interfere some of us in terms of working engagement. So the first question is just an addition to what she has asked. I was the one who asked that question because actually I've just joined now in terms of in the 100 limit participant after sending an email. So I think you should consider that, and also I believe if we are having an extraordinary number, then that means a number of people are not even attending this session. So I don't know how that be catered. I think you should address that question in terms of, for us, for example, I've not got the exact explanation of everything. So I don't know how I'm going to get that. And then the second question is that I've had the thing of projects, though I've not get the exact content. Are you specifically willing to have this project integrated within specific organization that we work for? Can we spearhead this project as a sub-component within Ryculture within our organization? And then the third point on the training session to be conducted. I believe you can conduct as many capacity building sessions as possible. But for this case, are you willing to have from our end, what do we need to be capacity built on? And what are some specific skills that we lack? Because at the end of the day, I see a majority of the 100 participants are young people. And I believe a skill gap is also a challenge. So I think also getting an insight from that end is also an important aspect and also something to be. And then the aspect of the project that we are going to engage, how are we going to engage with Ryculture amidst COVID-19 and the implication of the implication of COVID-19? Is it going to be a Zoom, and is it going to be something like a physical engagement, and the coordination around the 100 participant plus? So maybe it's also good to air out how are we going to be coordinated, or we'll be meeting 100 every time. So I don't know. So maybe you can guide about that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Siamola. It's a pleasure. So the first thing that we're going to mention in terms of the Zoom capacity, from this meeting, this is the first one that we have that challenge. We are going to look at how do we overcome that capacity shortfall. So we'll explore alternative approaches. Please, Innocent.
Yeah, kama huwezi panout tunaweza Google Meet.
Yeah, so we are considering alternative options. So Google Meet is one of the options, Innocent. That's one thing that we're also looking at. It can be a good platform so that we use those platforms and make the best of it so that nobody is locked out. So that is put into consideration. And after this session, the reason as why I opted to the option of recording the meeting, so that after the session, you can also have access to that resource, the resources that we have. So that will also be shared in terms of the recording. So that is the basics of that initial moment. That is a starting point. Then spearheading the work through your local organizations. What I mentioned is you already are doing some work in Srhr, in whichever organization that you're based in. And therefore, our component is, how do we enable you do that work better? Our integration is, you do the work the best way possible in your organization, and you are affiliated through Ryculture. So therefore, we are kind of your liaison in terms of supporting you get networks that you need, support that you need, but at the same time, you maintain the autonomy, you're making decisions on your own in what you feel is the problem in your community, and you're solving it where you are. So we are not coming to tell you do this and do this, no. You already know the problem you're solving, and you know how you're doing it. We just enable you to do it better, and that is in terms of even the aspect that you mentioned in capacity building. There's the initial outline of the program that I mentioned, that is in terms of project management, capacity building, resource development, policy advocacy, and related. After that initial portfolio, then now the key thing is, what are the key specific needs that you need, capacities or skills that you need to be able to do your work better? So from then, at that point, then we'll be able to tailor it to your needs and ensure that you are getting what is of value to you rather than just giving a generic program. It might not help you to deliver the results that you need. So that is going to happen. In terms of engagement with COVID-19, most of our interactions and engagements will be virtual sessions. However, we are looking at one point when things are settled and everything is aligned, then we could consider maybe once in a year or so, we have these kind of physical engagement forums and meetings where we get to discuss these issues and find a way to work together. And it also helps us fostering collaborations. And in fostering collaborations, one key that we have to acknowledge is, of the 397 people who applied, there are some who are out of Kenya, that's for sure. So those ones we're not considering as much. But even in the country where we are, in Kenya, let's say, for example, Nairobi County, we had 57 applicants from Nairobi County. And these 57 applicants, chances are high, they are solving related problems, but they don't know each other. And therefore, how do they amplify the work they are doing at individual level? The prospects of that are very slim unless they know each other. So those are the kind of networks. How do we enable you, even collaborate among yourselves to do the work that you're already doing in your spaces? So that is an overview. I believe I've answered you, Siamola. In case there's anything, you can just let me know.
Yeah, actually, on the aspect of, you have tackled some component on the motivation part. I don't know how we're going to motivate us so that we also continue to keep the conversation going, and also in terms of opportunities around here that we also anticipate. And then also on the issue of Google Meet, maybe as my final point, is that if we may consider other web platform, the better. But I discourage the use of Google Meet because actually a number of colleagues are using Huawei phones, and Huawei is one of the phones that is not eligible for Google. It has some complement in terms of accessing Google.
I get it. Yeah.
I think you understand that. So I believe that means actually Google Meet for this case may not work at any point. May not
be the option. It's okay. We'll consider the options and see what we can work with.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Then we have editor.
Okay, thank you so much for this platform. My name is Editor Viambo Cheng from Kibera. And for me, if you're speaking about Srhr, sometimes, especially in Africa, we'll say this one, we'll say we want to do sexual and reproductive health rights, but at the same time with limitation. So I want to understand, for example, personally, I'm a pro-choicer. I believe that women need to access safe abortion. At the same time, also, I advocate and also stand for rights of LGBTQ community. Then in this space, are we reliable for this network? Because we don't want to get also in a network whereby people will feel like, especially us as feminists, that we need limitation when we speak about Srhr. I come from Kibera, and every day when you pass, you will see in the drainages, you will see fetus that are thrown. So it means young girls are accessing unsafe abortion, and some people are taking advantage of that, and it's a business for some people. Then on this platform, how do we push, especially Susan Kihika policy, so that at least women and young girls can access safe abortion? And another thing, maybe on facilitation part, I just want to go straight. Like all of us are young people, and most of us, especially, are people who are here and are activists. I know they're not working. apart from maybe NGO workers? Then how will we facilitate if we are going to use a virtual meeting to ensure that everyone is attending by providing data to them? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the questions, Editor. It's a pleasure at least to know the diversity of the teams that we are working with. One thing that I mentioned that is very clear is it's not our responsibility to curtail whatever you're doing. When we run away from LGBTQ challenges, when we run away from abortion and access to safe abortion services, we are denying someone access to the healthcare services and the needs that they have. We all diverse individuals, and with our diversity, there are things that we are aligned with and there are things that we are not aligned with. So at the end of the day, the key thing is you are solving a problem that is critical and pertinent to your populations, and therefore it is just right to enable you do the work that you're doing in that space. I'm not going to tell you that you don't need to address LGBTQ issues. They are human beings and they have their own needs and they have their own challenges. So if you're going to address that, go ahead and do it. We won't ever come in and tell you, well, this is something that you can't go into. No, that is something that is in the purview of your work and you know why it needs to be addressed. And we also acknowledge that however much we are in a society that might be kind of limiting in terms of what we can talk about, what we can embrace and all, we are different and we have to acknowledge that. So do whatever it is that is right, that serves the community that you're working with, and make the best of it. And there are key bits that you've mentioned as well in terms of abortion services. We need to ensure that young girls are able to access the safe abortion services. If we don't enable them get the safe abortion, the cartels will be coming in and procuring unsafe abortions. And if they're getting the unsafe abortions, we are losing the child and probably even losing that lady. So what is the cost? And you have to weigh the risk benefit. Actually, that's the risk benefit analysis. What is the cost of this and what are the provisions on how we can operate in that space? In terms of facilitation of internet bundles, I can't give a commitment at this particular moment, but it's something that we will explore and see if it's a possibility. However, we can't give a commitment that we are going to facilitate. Yeah. Any other question? I saw Quinta had a question. Jackie also has a question. So Jackie?
Yeah, so.
Oh yeah, Quinta.
Yeah, like, some of the projects that are going on, some of us are doing things that are individual driven, not working with any organization, not working with the just individual driven, self-motivated, like something like an advocacy, you get?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are individual driven. Basically, personally, I'm not conjoined with like working with a specific organization. No, I do personal driven any programs. Like most of it is advocacy and education or something. Or once in a while we come together and do something.
Yeah. So there's no
People
structured
like
organization
some of us
in place, but
we
you're
don't
doing
get
it at a personal.
no structure. Yeah, there is no structured organization. It is personal, it is self-driven, but the evidences of what we do.
So that's okay.
Yeah, the evidences of what I do, but there is none, like I'm not partnered with a specific organization or I'm recognized with, no. I don't, no, we don't need like that. So what I have is personal, individual driven, self-motivated, like that passion to change something.
Yeah.
I hope you acknowledge that, because basically all we've been talking about is recognized like institutions, CBOs or something.
Yeah,
but me is individual driven, like something like an advocacy, the passion to change something. Actually, I'm a health science student, so I understand this. I get the problem is I know the scope of everything.
That's okay. So for the individual component as well, you're already doing something. So being you're doing something, we can work with you as well. But now we look at how do we, in terms of giving the visibility of the work that you're doing, how do we structure it? That is something that we look at a personal level in terms of these are the people who they don't have established organizations, but they're still doing the work and they're making a difference in their communities. How do we enable them continue doing the work better? So those will be now case-based. But I believe we have a room to work together because at the end of the day, we have a common agenda and we have a common aspiration of addressing these challenges in our community. So there's room for engagement and we'll work together, no worries.
So what if somebody wants to reach you guys at personal level?
At a personal level, normally you have the email address that was sent. I check the email every single evening.
Okay.
So I'll reach out. Then,
Okay.
Then,
thank you.
You're welcome. Jackie, you had a question?
Yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Jackie Wayaro from Nakuru. I'm a young woman living with a disability, and what I basically do is advocate for sexual, reproductive, and health rights among young women living with disabilities. My first question is, okay, I work with international bodies. My first question is, what are we going to benefit from this project or this program? What is our benefit? And also, what is the benefit of our organizations?
Okay. What do you mean in terms of benefit? What specifically did you have in mind in terms of how do you benefit from the organization?
Like you have said that matters to do with abandoned facilitations you are not going to do. So what will I benefit from participating with or partnering with Ryculture?
Okay, thank you. So I think that is one thing that I mentioned as well initially. In terms of the benefit that you get by collaborating with Ryculture is the visibility of the work that you're doing. And therefore you are able to mobilize resources by giving you the visibility and the platform and showcasing the work that you're doing in terms of better documentation practices, reporting practices, and even linking with you other people that we engage with, partners within our networks. That is a key contribution. Then there's the capacity building. You're doing advocacy work. Which forums are you engaging with? Which opportunities are you linking with? Let's say, for example, UNFPA is working in Nakuru County. And UNFPA working in Nakuru County, probably they're having a convening where they're looking at people working on ground who need to share context-based insights that can enable them to drive policies that are responsive to the needs of that community. Can we help you be partners in that kind of a forum? That would be critical because you are building networks in that local community. You are driving change that is aligned to what you're already doing in that space. So those are the kind of contributions that we give in terms of agriculture. How do you leverage on that and make the best of it in whichever places you are? I hope I've answered you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay,
and just to excuse myself, is it okay if I leave in between the meeting?
It's okay. Christine Sodi.
Hi, my question is in regards to the implementation plan of the project. So what timelines are you working with? What is the duration of the project? And then in terms of engagement, what should be our expectation? Like how often are we going to engage with Ryculture, and is it going all to be online, or do you envision a point of personal interaction?
Okay, so actually for that, the last question I already answered. In terms of the meetings, currently with COVID, we are going to have virtual interactions, but beyond that, we are looking at having physical meetings, maybe when things allow, and that would be circumstantial in terms of where are we going to meet, what are the logistical plannings and all. So that is something that is in the pipeline, but for now we'll be having virtual meetings. In terms of the timelines that we are looking at in terms of the project execution, I'll mention those in the next steps section. That is the next thing that we're getting into immediately after this Q&A session. So I'll respond to that, the timelines of implementation. Magaiwa?
David.
Yes.
I want us to, I've had your conversation, and you have spoken well, but actually I feel we need to talk about the conflict of interest among organizations. That's the first thing, because you may not offer me visibility at the same time the other organization want to take credit of my work. And you have to acknowledge that as a professional, as a professional working in the scope of an organization.
Yes.
Because most organizations are so closed. Yeah. So if I share something that I've done with the organization will start asking some questions. So that's why at some point others are not sharing, others never shared their links, maybe never shared their work, because some of the work is so confidential. Some of the work is so confidential for the donors only, not for the public. Because I worked once in an organization that was much on activism and social justice, and the work was not as I was supporting communication, and they were like, okay, I advised to go on social media, but they said no, we don't want to appear public.
Okay, so then
So,
in that case, yes, what I believe is in terms
okay,
of
that's
the visibility.
Okay, that is the first one. Okay, I was trying to say about the visibility because others we may bound not to share information to you for visibility for the purpose of the organization.
Sure.
But that one does not mean we may not engage with you.
Sure.
Because at some point you're doing community mobilization, mentoring, and other things.
Sure.
And then about building, I saw capacity building. Let us come back. Youth is not well supported. He will not execute his role well. Actually, mimi nimehustle bundles vibaya sana. So that is one way of capacity building us for us to attend meaningfully to these Zoom meetings. So it's good at least once now, or at least you help us, because at some point the organization ajo ukijaribu engage mostly youth-led, adult-led organizations that do engage youth, they don't take you moving or working in another organization so easily. But it's good for us to make networking and networks to other organizations so that we can bring change to the society.
Sure.
So at least try to, at your end, try to support us, because I see we may have a training na itakula bundles mingi, especially the Zoom one. So see on ways of capacity building us, and I'm not shy. You're not shy to support these. And then I'm suggesting that rather than using only emails, we can share our contact. So you can create a Google Dropbox. I will share contact so that you can create a WhatsApp group.
We are losing you. I don't know if it's just on my end.
All channel. Unapata tukijaribu. Are you getting me? Najaribu kusema. Email, I don't see it effective for us responding, but WhatsApp can be better for us responding as we go forward.
That's okay.
So that are just few things that I wanted to highlight, so you may respond to a few.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you so much for that. So, well, in terms of the highlights, the things that you've mentioned, one, in terms of the facilitation, I won't give a commitment because it's something that it's not within our scope at the moment. But if we'll explore the options on how can we engage and get the capacity building in terms of financial support and all, that would be critical. If we are able to mobilize the resources that we need to ensure we do that, we'll ensure that it's implemented, and that is how we're going to work on it. In terms of communication channels, I believe Austin is in the room and Michelle as well. Being you'll be the people majorly and actively involved in coordinating this, you'll explore those options and ensure that we have a WhatsApp group that will be specifically for these communications, and to ensure we work as a team and network and see how do we drive that value together as a team. Then the first question that you asked, actually, I'll answer it last. That is in terms of conflict of interest, confidentiality of information. We believe that there are different organizations that work and they have their own data privacy and all those provisions in terms of how do they share information, where do they share it, and with whom do they share that information. And therefore, whichever information that you're sharing with us, it should be that information that is allowed for public visibility. That is the first thing. It is allowed to be shared with the public. If it's not, then it would not be in line with your own policies, and we don't want to contravene on that kind of provision. So therefore, share what you feel is right for you to share with the public, and whether it is right with the organization that you're working with. So that is the first thing. In terms of conflict of interest, when you're liaising with the organization to be participating and liaising with them, you can be coming in terms of supporting that organization to achieve its objectives, and you're representing them in our forums as an Ryculture platform. That is aligned if they give you the go-ahead to do that. If they don't give you the go-ahead, then from your own perspective, you are engaging with us as Ryculture at this particular moment at a personal level, the same way Quinta mentioned at some point, she's working as an individual and doing the work. So it therefore means the visibility would be for you in terms of the work that you're doing, but you might not share it aligned to that organization. You're just doing it at a personal level. So you have to weigh those dynamics and see what works best for you. and what doesn't put a conflict between you and the organization that you're representing, and also doesn't affect our provisions of engagement between Reculture and you as a person and you and the organization that you're working with. So that will be the critical bit of what we have. So I'll suggest that if at all you're asking a question that has been asked, please let's limit them so that we save on time as well, not to hold each other up here. So Emmanuel Simiyu, I'm going to take the last two, then I go to the next.
Okay, yes, good morning.
Morning to you, Simiyu, how are you?
I'm fine. I had one suggestion that we are so many, maybe will you just kindly divide us maybe per county, maybe per region, then send us through one email those particular regions so that we could also have a discussion about this organization and maybe the way forward on a smaller scale rather than waiting for this large platform. Then two, how soon are we going to hear from you? Three, I would insist on trainings. Like I know we are all youths, yes, but also many of us are not trained on this major basics like project management, writing proposals, and so on.
Yeah.
So maybe you should also check on that. Then three, facilitation is very key, and I will insist, those of us who are working and still working with the organization, we know this. We are working, but the organization still gives us bundles because they know like that's the only motivation you can get from attending a training or a meeting. So I'll insist, so many years students, so kindly check on that. And maybe I thought because it's an organization and there's a new program coming in, I thought you had a budget for that, like we'll be having like 100 meetings in a year, let's plan for this. So maybe it will sound unfortunate if you turn that down when it comes to facilitation.
We'll
that brings me to this question. Just a minute. If at all you cannot facilitate your people in terms of bundles, how sure are we about those who will need some sub-funding?
Those who
will be needing maybe funding or maybe facilitation, maybe they are going to, maybe for a meeting somewhere or a training, or they're holding like a Zoom meeting with youths, like such things. How assured are we? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, well, in terms of I gave the provisions in terms of what we are working with and how we are working on it. And one thing that you have to acknowledge as well, Reculture is as youth-led as you are in your different organizations. And therefore, we don't have any funding that has been allocated to Reculture in terms of doing the work that we're doing. We're doing it from a point of how do we work with young people to ensure that we continue doing the same work together and build capacities within our networks. The advantage that we have from Reculture perspective is we've integrated in some of the partnership organizations that we're working with who are willing to offer support and work with local young groups who are working in the local communities. And therefore, in terms of mobilizing, so let's say, for example, if you're working in a particular county, then our key bit is how do we engage with one of our partners who is working in that community that is resourced enough to be able to do that work. So it won't be Reculture financing or facilitating your work, but Reculture using its networks and platforms to enable you to do your work better in your community. So that is the critical. Okay. Yes.
Can I ask a question before you just proceed, so that maybe you can answer all of them once to save time? Huh?
Just a question, please, because actually we're out of time, and I think we need to get to the next steps here.
Okay. I think the question of how, I think every question actually that each individual, I've seen a number of individuals who have been this space for long, the aspect of innocent in the egg and the rest and the quinta. So I think it is the aspect of how are you going to facilitate is not coming out clearly. I think you should, in terms of the documentation that we'll share, I believe it will capture the kind of TOR. And then my colleague has just shared the aspect of coordination, having WhatsApp on board. I believe at some point, even young people accessing WhatsApp is also a challenge. So the aspect of coordination also should also come out clear. How are we going to coordinate and ensure that there's active participation even in WhatsApps? Because at some point, some of them may even go off. They may not even consider that WhatsApp. So I believe that aspect of coordination in terms of it may be county-based or blocks, so that we also have some kind of engagement around that. And also, we are all targeting one government, and that's the government of Kenya. In terms of that is as a key partner or a key allies in terms of the engagement. And we are all tackling one component, that is reproductive health programs. So can we have a common agenda in terms of a common advocacy agenda around maybe developing an advocacy strategy or a strategy of engagement for this kind, maybe for example, specific counties, the people from specific county, like you said, we have 57 people from Nairobi. Can we have a common agenda around that so that people from Nairobi, they have a common agenda so that somebody doing something in Kibra may integrate within that specific strategy and work along with that. And maybe it may be, if it's not costed, we may find resources around that so that we can have it done. And then can we have some kind of TOR of engagement so we may not leave anyone behind. At the end of the day, we may be evaluating at the point of evaluating, we will be all together in terms of evaluating, and we have a participatory approaches in terms of programming. So I believe that is just some kind of information, and also the aspect of how, if you're not going to respond to the aspect of how, I think so many questions are going to arise, because actually everyone is like, people will like to hear, are you going to provide 1,000 for each bundle, for each meeting? That maybe to be specific. We would also like to hear, if I'm going to travel from here to the governor's office in Nairobi to see, for example, Governor Songo, he was the governor. How am I going to be facilitated? Am I going to be the partners that you're talking about? How are they going to come on board? Because actually that is a promise, but it may take long. So the thing, the problem is growing dark and dark every day. So I think that is the thing that everyone is trying to ask should come out clearly. The kind of facilitation, the costed budget for this implementation.
Sure.
Even if you're going to not to be paid, but the volunteer program in terms of motivation.
Okay,
maybe I'm just young people. Yeah.
Thank you, Siomola. That is critical as well. In terms of the coordination, we look at the modality of engaging people region-wise and all. In terms of the specific focus area, sexual reproductive health, and we know there are different aspects of Srhr. There's the advocacy ensuring that the government is delivering on its mandate. And there are people who have stopped working on the government delivering, but they're also looking at how do we ensure we provide these services to people who need them, and which organizations are working to ensure that is being met. And therefore, there are different approaches that each and every organization is working on, and even each individual, wherever they are. So therefore, in terms of prescriptive, in terms of what we should do, no. But in terms of now working on, let's say if we're working on a work plan, this is a kind of a policy advocacy tool and engagement framework on how we are going to achieve this. That is something that we work on within the different strategic working groups and that we will have in place. So that would be critical. In terms of facilitation, what I told you as well in terms of the responses, Ryculture doesn't have funding for the work that you're going to do, because one of the things that we identified is you're already doing the work, and therefore you know why you're doing it and you already have a plan on how you are executing it. Our support is, how do we enable you to do whatever you are doing better? We are not taking away your responsibility. We are not going to do your work for you. No, that is your space, and it's you who is doing it. We're just helping ensure that you get to do it better. In terms of facilitation of these different organizations that I mentioned is, you have an organization, let's say there's a workshop that is being done somewhere. The partner who is in that space will engage you as their person, and then now we determine the different modalities of engagement, and those will be case-based. Let's say, for example, we are partnering with, I don't want to mention any organization by name at this point. If you're working with an organization, let's say in Kakamega County, and they are going to have a workshop, and also, let's say they're doing an activation of one of their products and services that they're launching in that community. It therefore means they need young people who are going to be supporting the activation. These young people will be from this network. And if the young people are from the Ryculture network, the people that we're working with in the different communities, and therefore,
excuse me, Kidogo.
Yes.
Kidogo, since we have 82 people, there are people who are still outside. If they could be let in kindly, they are asking to be let in.
Austin, look into that.
I can see we are 82. So if we can just have, add the others who are waiting.
Actually, we are 100. Oh, yeah. They're coming in, sure. Sorry, I missed out on that. So yes, so in terms of what we're looking at is, we are not going to do the work. We are going to support where we can, and also ensuring that we bring as many people as possible to ensure we continue doing the work. We are financing. Ryculture doesn't have a budget for it. Our bit is we are getting advantage of the networks that we have to give those networks and the support you need on a case-by-case basis. That would be the terms of engagement and how we are looking into that. So in terms of documentation, you should expect from here is, what is the coordination strategy? How are we going to move forward from here? What are the terms of reference? What do you expect of Ryculture, and what does Ryculture expect of you? And that will be made clear as much as possible. So that would be it for now. Then in terms of the specific deliverables, the next steps of what we are looking at is, Austin and Michelle will coordinate and will work on the TORs for you. Hopefully we are sure by the end of next week, it should be in place. So wait for that to come your way. Then other than that, in terms of the visibility, the content that we expected, there's an email that you received as well. I believe you all received that email. And that email specified that you guys already seeing it on my screen. First thing for the visibility, we need to know what you're doing. And it was structured in the sense that, give an introduction of the organization you're working with, the problem statement, or for the people who are working as individuals, give a brief background of why you're doing the work you're doing, you as a person. Why are you passionate about it? What is the problem? The organization's work, what is your solution? That is the statement of impact. If you've interacted, let's say you've worked with 100 people, 1,000 people, what is the statement of impact? Do you have testimonials for that work? What is geographic location where you're doing the work that you're doing? The country, county, sub-county, or ward specifics, your contacts, how does someone get to reach out to you? And the reason as to why we needed that information is, when we are looking at engaging the partners and letting them work with you in those communities, we need to know which specific location are you, how can they reach out to you, and how are you engaging in solving the problem? Does it align with their operating model as well? So that you are having meaningful partnerships, meaningful collaborations that are delivering that work. And we would expect that if you are doing the work you're already doing, if that can be done within a week, that would be a win for both of us. Then training sessions to be conducted. Our hope is that at least once a month we'll have a training session, and that will be structured in terms of the different deliverables and the operating model. If someone is in advocacy, they might not need training in terms of resource mobilization for products, but they need resource mobilizations to continue doing the advocacy, the lobbying and all. So it would be structured to meet the specific needs of those working groups. So that is one thing that we'll be looking at as well. And that will be outlined in the TORs of what we expect of you. So that is the basis and the overview of what we're looking at the next steps. A brief one page of what your organization is doing, the problem you're solving, how you are solving it, your contacts, and how you would love to engage with us in terms of the support you'd need in executing your program. So that when we're reaching out to the partners who are willing to come on board, they already know how they can work with you. So that is a key bit for us. So now I'll finish up on the remaining questions. Wycliffe for Guta. Wycliffe?
Excuse me, I have a question.
Wycliffe? Wycliffe, you have a question? Okay, well, let's move to Christine Sudi again.
Sorry, I don't think I had another question. You've covered everything that I asked.
Okay, thank you. Ruth Achieng.
Hello, I have a question.
I'm following the people who have raised their hand. So I'm hearing a voice, but I'm not seeing anybody who has raised their hand who is speaking. Ruth Achieng, if you have none. Collins Amukoa.
Hi everyone, I am Collins Amukoa from Nairobi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Collins.
Okay, my question is, okay, if I handle a session with the youths from the organization I am working with, what is their benefit? Do you have like certificates for them? Are you also going to motivate them, or what are their benefits?
Come up again on that question.
Okay, I am like, I work with an organization on mental health program. So let's say we integrate with the Srhr.
Yes.
So after I handle sessions with them, I take them through the Srhr. What is their benefit as the youths? Are they going to be given certificates? Are they going to be motivated bundles? That's my question.
Okay. So if you're working with young people on Srhr, but they're looking at different components, is if you build capacity in you, what you need to tell us is, what are you delivering? What are your objectives? And that is why we need to know what are your objectives of achieving the program. Once we know the objectives, then we see how do we come to engage with you and enabling you do that better. So that will be case-based. If then the certification is what is required, what is the value of that certificate? Because the other thing that we also, actually most of our programs as Ryculture have not been based on, do we give you a certificate for the work we do? We give you the support and acknowledge the work you're doing, but giving you a certificate, it will be a piece of paper. What is the benefit of that paper to you? If the paper doesn't have any benefit, then we don't have a reason to give you that paper. But if, let's say, for example, you've been working within the network, and maybe one of our partners wants to pick you up from that organization to keep driving that program that you're doing in their organization full-time as an employee, but doing the same work you've been doing, we are willing to give you a recommendation and an acknowledgement of your contribution through that work. But if I give you a certificate that doesn't have any weight, then it won't be helping you. It will just be a paper that you'll file, probably you'll add it to your pillow, but it doesn't get you the results. So it's case-based and knowing what is the value you expect of us? Can we be able to deliver on it? And how do we enable you make the best of that opportunity? So that is how we engage. And I believe we'll get to see the modalities of execution and support when it comes to time, Collins. Then Lucas. Lucas, you have a question? I see your hand raised. Siamola, back to you again. Quinta, I'm seeing hands raised, but I can't see people speaking.
Yeah, so this is what I want to say. Actually, people should stop asking questions that have already been answered to save on time.
Sure.
A lot of questions that people tend to ask is something that has been covered already during the beginning of the meeting. Like the issue of facilitation, visibility, that is something you've covered several, and each and every question that somebody is asking is revolving around that. You've given it is clear that facilitation comes in when at least you've tabled something and you link us with another organization or something that can help us support or push through whatever we have. People, sure. let us move forward. Let us not repeat the same question each and every time again. Let's save on time. We're trying to work with time. People ask the same question literally each and every time. I think to some extent we really need to know what we are asking. Ask something that somebody has not answered.
Well, thank you, Quinta.
Let us not repeat whatever we've covered, guys. Let us save on time.
Then we have Susan. I hope you guys have taken note of that so that we close this meeting in the next 5 minutes so that we move forward. Susan Mitei, we have 5 questions now. The last.
Hi, David.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Okay, mine is just going to be a compliment. I really want to appreciate that you have selected our organization to be part of Ryculture. We really appreciate. I know people have gotten into asking a lot of questions without even considering the fact that we've been given an opportunity to work with you. I really appreciate the fact that you are going to enable us deliver the impact in the societies we work in. And thank you so much, because as people ask for facilitation and the rest, they are not looking at the aspect of you introducing us to other partners, the aspect of capacity building. I think it's going to be a very great opportunity working with you. Mine is only to ask when we can soon begin working, and I believe you are going to ask us to share with you our work plans so that you can be able to know the activities we do on the ground and then how you are going to come in. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. And that is actually one of the things that we mentioned in the first action item that we'll need is a brief overview of the work you're doing, how you intend to do it, and how we can support, and what kind of engagement are you looking at moving beyond this. So that would be the next action item, as I've mentioned in the next step. So take note of that. Once we send out the follow-up communication on these steps, let's get started on working on it. Yvonne, Pamela?
Hi, David.
Yes.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Also, I wanted to ask, you said that we should share our profiles, our organization profiles. So how soon are you expecting to receive that? And who should we be communicating to? Yeah.
So in that communication, there's an email address that you received, info.reculture@gmail.com. So you'll share the details on that. And actually the details of what we expect were shared on the initial email for this session. That is the brief work on being done. That is introduction to organization, problem statement, the working model or the solution, the statement of impact, geographic coverage, and then how you'd want to engage. What kind of engagement are you looking at? What kind of support do you need to be doing the work? So if you can do it within a week, the better for us. Also to have the planning and see how are we engaging, how are we bringing on board, then we move from there. As soon as you can, that would be a good thing. Then we have Daniel. Daniel Adika.
Hello, David.
Yes, Daniel.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for this forum. I think I only have one question. My question comes in place of matter of intellectual property rights. And I don't know how well Ryculture is well covered and well articulated in terms of addressing intellectual property rights, because when we have to share with you any information that concerns my organization, like if I have to share with you my organization profile, I have to share with you my work plan, and I have to share with you what my passion and what I expect. In short, what I'm trying to do is legally, I'm trying to share with you my intellectual property rights. And I don't know how well Ryculture is well prepared to protect it, that it may not be used by any other quarter or even be used by Ryculture itself to benefit. So, because there is a problem, maybe sometimes it tends to create a pyramid scheme within organizations, that you find an organization using another organization's info and data and work plan to just be able to get fund for itself and be able to launch other entities within its own self in the means of other organizations. So my own question, just humbly and politely, would be, how well is Ryculture in terms of legally protecting intellectual property rights?
Sure. Thank you for that question, actually, Daniel. And it's a critical context that we're now looking at. There are so many litigations and all. And the key thing that you have to be rest assured is, in terms of the information that we require of you, it's specific on what you feel you are willing to share with the public and share with other people. If you're ready, whatever you feel is proprietary information to you will have to be safeguarded by yourself first. Two, in terms of Ryculture, our working model, we are not going to execute the programs that we're executing on ground. And that is where now we draw the line. If I'm doing the same work that you're doing, I have a chance to take your information and get to doing it. My model of work is, I don't want to do whatever you're doing. You know why you're doing it, you're the best qualified person to do that work. And therefore, I leave it within your purview to do it. I enable you mobilize resources. Let's say when you're talking about the fundraising and all that, if I'm able to mobilize funds for someone who is willing to engage and work with you on your plan, then that person will going to work with you, not me. And therefore, I'm helping you do the work you're doing on your space, not for Ryculture. So that is a critical bit of how we are going to do it. And then the other thing that would come is in terms of, if another organization is looking at how they might have the risk of taking your information, you're looking at your, like what we call it, your intellectual property and adopting it in their context, then that case, then we are able to work with you and see what are the different measures that we can put in place to ensure that we contain that kind of a breach in contract. So those are the provisions that we have, but hopefully what we are hoping is we don't get to that point. And the thing is, first, protect your information, use what you feel is relevant in terms of getting you the support that you need. And then the other thing is, it's the point of coming from a point of trust. Because I believe if I trust you to work with me, actually before I even get to work with anyone, I need to be able to trust them to do the right thing that is good for them and good for me at the same time. If we can start from a point of trust and see how do we work for the betterment of each and every one of us without infringing on other people's rights and all privileges, but ensuring we'll safeguard each and every other person's interest and the best wishes. So that is how I think we can work from there. Then
David.
Yes.
Just shortly, does Ryculture actually have a written down draft or submission concerning what you're saying?
What is, come up again on that?
Does Ryculture actually have a written draft or just a written, some sort of laws that actually guide what you're actually saying, that you will not interfere or you will not engage in whatever any other organization that truly works with you engages in?
Sure. And that will be shared with you, and with sharing the terms of reference and the policy documentation in terms of engagement. How are we working on that model? So that will be provided. You'll have a look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lucas, that is the last question. I think Lucas raised his hand and he doesn't have any questions. So that marks the end of it. I'll give a moment to Austin to say something, then we wind up the session. Austin Otieno. Hello. Okay, I think he's not in a position to. So that marks the end of our session. In case you have any questions, any concern that you need addressed, please don't hesitate to reach out to us on email. And there's a number that we normally use, though it's not as active, just to give you a heads up. The 078628, let me just type it on the chat box. For WhatsApp messages majorly, calls are not allowed. As they are disabled, that is not allowed because we don't want to answer your call, but they're disabled. So that is the number that we work on. So that is it. In terms of the number of participants, we'll work on that, and I promise that we'll make it better for the subsequent sessions that we're going to have. Reach out, we'll have a WhatsApp group that will be created as well, so that we have this engagement moving forward from this particular forum. And thank you for taking your time. Thank you for being part of the network and engaging with us. For most of the work that we do, we have different social media pages where we exist. For the email that was shared, we have a LinkedIn page, Ryculture Health and Social Innovation. Facebook, the Ryculture Health and Social Innovation page, they are very active. Then we have Twitter at Ryculture Health. And finally, YouTube. We have a couple of content. Some of the training programs that we've mentioned are already covered in that space. So listen to them, see what has value for you, what can you use. Then let's work away to make sure we make impact in our communities in very different ways that we can. Thank you so much, everyone, and let's make the best of this opportunity. Have a great day.
Thank you.